Good afternoon, everyone, and let's start with this meeting with the topic education for the space economy. Can you hear me correctly? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. So first of all, let me thank all the speakers that are joining us this afternoon. Here with me are Ezio Bussoletti, now currently Coordination Committee of the Master in Space Economy at Lewis Business School, and Milena Lerario, that is CEO of Airbus Italy. And then connected remotely, there are the rectors, Donatella Asciuto, rector at Politecnico di Milano, and Guido Saracco, rector at Politecnico di Torino. And then also Simonetta Di Pippo, Director of Space Economic Evolution Laboratory ASDA Bocconi, and Renato Cruppone, that is the head of Swiss Space Office at State Secretariat for Education, Research and Innovation. The goal today is to talk about the evolution of the aerospace sector and the evolution of the educational offerings of the universities in this sector. We all know that space is evolving quite rapidly, and together with that we need to evolve also the courses offered by our university to keep the evolution in progress. And according to my opinion, we can evidence at least four main pillars that are driving this evolution. On one side, we have the interdisciplinarity, because not only the technical topics related to the technology inside the space sector are needed today, but also some other knowledge and skills from various disciplines that needs to be integrated in traditional courses. Then there is the technological advancements. Technology is evolving, the use of satellites and data is evolving and getting larger and larger. The space exploration, the suborbital flight, the access to space is changing, and the educational offers needs to keep the pace with this kind of evolution. And then again, the internationalization. We need to think at an international level in order to put together all the skills and the capacity that we have worldwide, because cooperation is essential in this topic. And then the new way of doing education with the digital technologies, the online learning, that is opening new perspective and possibilities. And other players, not just universities, are entering the educational market in order to take advantage from this possibility. So today we have a roundtable in which we have representatives from universities, from agencies, from private companies, and we are trying to share our opinion about the possible evolution of this sector. I would start with Rector Donatella Asciuto from Politecnico di Milano. Donatella, can you hear me?
Afternoon.
Professor Asciuto, she's rector at Politecnico di Milano. She's a full professor of computer engineering, and she did a PhD in computational engineering at University of Colorado in USA. Her research interest regards the architecture of computational system, and both the architecture of hardware and softwares, and all the application of the ICT for the smart cities. And with this background, she's leading the largest technical university in Italy. Donatella, I would ask you to give us your view from your perspective about the current condition of the university in this area. And after that, we will talk also about the evolution of this sector. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everybody. Politecnico is the only university which has an entire department devoted to the aerospace engineering. And basically, we have both a bachelor and a master program in aerospace engineering, in which we see an increasing interest from students Our intake is about 500 students per year incoming at the bachelor, and 250 in the master programs. And we have an increase by 10% every year of requests of students. And also what we can see is also an increasing diversity. This is not anymore a male-dominated, but I mean, still male-dominated, but we reached about 25% of girls that are also interested in aerospace engineering. We do a lot of, we try to interdisciplinarity, especially in the master program, because we feel that today the aerospace engineers need to have more background also on terms of telecommunication for satellites, obviously, but also embedded computation, and so the development of control systems and the software development. But there are also students that will go more to the propulsion parts, and therefore also new fuels and new ways of doing propulsion for accessing to space, and data management, which is becoming also an important factor, the use of the data that are produced by the satellites and their computation for the space economy, but also for other type of applications, as well as materials. Materials are changing very much also in this area. What is important for us is to have the education and the research in aerospace engineering, both fundamental research. We have 6 ERC projects in the last 5 years on spatial development, and some proof of concepts. And also this has brought us to develop a number of startups that are working made by our students together, in which we are also working with the European Space Agency, the Business Innovation Center that we have here at Politecnico. So there is a lot of interest, there is a lot of research, and there are a lot of specialization that can be brought about. But the other factors that I think we will need to look at is also the relation between health and space. We are developing a course on human space flight, and also the consequence, what are the effects of space into the health of the people. I think it's very exciting. It's a very exciting period for the aerospace engineering, and there is a lot of possibilities of development in terms of competence that will be available today. So digital learning is obviously one possibility which we haven't explored yet, but the research is very international, and it's very connected to with the different agencies, both the Italian Space Agency and the European Space Agency, but also with companies that are developing new products and new ways of accessing to space. I think there is a lot of potentials, and we are also we see also a lot of potential in terms of development of new enterprises.
Thank you, Donatella. Research and technological transfer. If we can summarize from your perspective, I will give soon the floor to Guido Saracco, who is rector at Politecnico of Torino. Guido, things are happening in Turin around the aerospace sector, and Guido started his period of being rector at Politecnico di Torino a little before me in Bari. I really appreciated his attempt to put together various disciplines. I don't want to oversimplify, but he tried to put philosophy together with engineer, and I think that's a good way of thinking differently about the possible evolution of our engineers in the future. Please, Guido, the floor is yours.
Well, this is a common feature of most technical universities that are a bit changing. Technologists need to know more about human and social sciences to understand better the problems that they are going to solve with technologies that are, in any case, more and more important to solve them, provided they are addressed in a proper way, and provided the technologies themselves can understand the side effects of technologies inside the society. But this is fun, and this is also perceivable in the area of management. More and more big companies become managed by technologists that get an MBA after becoming engineers, for instance. This is due to the role of technologies, in any case, in nowadays ever-changing society and the dynamics of change, which is putting technical universities as ours in a crucial role. And to better accomplish this role, we have to change, I would say, dramatically, because society changes so fast, we have to change accordingly. Possibly being a bit less specialized in the professionals we deliver, but more flexible. The field of space is clearly interdisciplinary, and we need to get our students soft and thinking skills there to be able to cooperate in groups where innovation is brought to light, and to understand potential applications for society. As the space technology provide a lot of potential downstream applications on Earth, and this is interesting. I would say that we have a sort of parallel evolution with Politecnico di Milano, and what characterizes a bit our site is the fact that we have a sort of city of aerospace that is being created, as we have a lot of big companies like Leonardo, Thales Alenia Space, Altec, that have sites in a precise area of Turin. And around them, we are building university facilities and startup hosting facilities to create a sort of dedicated area for a field that is expanding like hell. And the number of startups and of small, medium enterprises that are now redirecting their efforts to this field is numerous, shifting a bit, in our case, from the automotive industry to the space industry. For this reason, we have been honored by coordinating the Italian efforts in this area with a very large group of about 15 universities and research centers, and as much as that companies and private research centers, which is going to be a sort of coordination hub for the next years, and aims at remaining a sort of stable coordination effort. But on top of that, we need to be coordinated at the European level, at least, as we feel part of this part of the world. And I believe that universities have a crucial role in these international relationships. And so we are spending a lot of attention to coordinate with structures abroad, similar structures, where you can have industries, startups, universities, a research lab, and education facilities. The education in aerospace engineering is indeed very fascinating to the new generation of students, because it is not just interdisciplinary, but is also offsetting on-ground visions. And for this reason, it's really a bursting area of students' vocations that cannot be fulfilled all at once. We have been investing a lot to serve as many of these vocations with new world-class scientists. That has been the area where I as a rector and my board of governors have invested more in attracting foreign scientists to strengthen even more our mechanical engineering and aerospace engineering department. And what I'm looking for is to start up sharing of knowledge with all of you and possibly have common overall research and education programs, as any one of us is addressing a specific area with particular competence. And generally speaking, students that travel around are enjoying themselves, grow more, and get the best we can as a system offer them. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Guido. And now I will come to my guests here, and I would try to ask to Ezio Bussoletti what he thinks about the current position of universities at national and international level with respect to the needs of the market in this area. I believe that in order to predict the evolution of something, you need to know its history, and of course Ezio knows the history of the aerospace system.
Well, thank you very much to everybody. I know the story just because I'm the oldest in the ambience. That's the reason why. I would like just to point with a number. The number of persons who get a job when they get the laurea in Italy is 74.6%, while in Europe is 86.7%. This means that in any case, so much the Italian universities do go too much vertically rather than working transversally, and we lose potentialities. And this is the major problem that we have. This is the reason I found the same thing when I came back to Italy bringing infrared technology from France, where I get my PhD, because in Italy we didn't have the PhD. And once again, the mistakes that every university, every researcher did is going vertically rather than transversally. And I agree very much with Saracco when he says that things have to be changed in this direction. This is the reason, the main reason why we have decided, in accord with the Lewis Business School, to build up the master that is now started with a very great success in space economy, just producing people with capacity, both at the economic and financial level and at technological level. These are the kind of figures which are needed at industrial level. All the teachers, most of the teachers of the master are represented by CEOs of the most important industries in Italy, persons of very high level, the high level from United States, from European Space Agency, and so on. What we needed, figures able to build a bridge. And this is more and more important in terms of the quality of the teachers. If we go in Italy, now space economy is becoming the thing with, as the French say, à la mode, so that everyone is jumping on the subject. Plenty of professors, never heard before, who become professors just because they jump on that. Plenty of people have never passed a minimum exam of selection to become university professor, of so on. So the problem is to have the quality, which is the only way to overcome the bridge and arrive to good solutions.
Thank you, Ezio. And yes, of course, we have to invest in the quality of our lecturers, our researchers, because the quality of the university system is the starting point for having good technicians, engineers, and to be hide from companies. And I will go soon to Milena Lerario, asking her opinion about the possible trajectories of university. Do we need to have more vertical studies on a specific technology? Do we have to go wider because we need to teach people to solve complex problems, and then you need to be able to put together knowledge coming from different areas? What is your opinion based on your experience?
So thank you for the question. I will start saying that I'm also agreeing with that being said about flexibility, and also the quality of teaching. If I can add something positive, I think that in the last 20 years, that is the time I was attending university, I see a awakening of the university in Italy. Before was much more theory and looking only at locally. What we do in Italy. Now I think there is a kind of attention on the rest of the world. And I remember when I was at university, we speak about Erasmus, and my professor at Pisa University looking at me and saying, Erasmus, I know Erasmus da Rotterdam, but I don't understand what is Erasmus. So stay here, finish university, and then you will go wherever you want after. Now I see different kind of professor and different kind of also university approach on what has been needed or what is needed by the industry. So as Airbus, we are participating in a lot of masters, helping also to present which are the needs from the industry today, and helping university or different institution to also kind of create maybe from scratch what is needed as, let's say, as industry now today. And this is also linked to society, because when I was 20, my dream was to go to US, like a lot of people. Now, when you talk with kids, they talk about space. So we have a different, completely dream there, and I think it's part of our life. So I will say that industry is not looking for the aerospace engineer, talking as an aerospace engineer anymore. So not on the vertical. I think they are looking for a 360 kind of profile. So someone that is able to change their skin and their competencies, but also to upgrade competencies. So the engineer of before, in maybe a black room with a few lights, gamer, it's not anymore the image of the engineer. The engineer can sit and do a conference, maybe not as good as a very good speaker, but we are much more than just equation or math. So we have to kind of upgrade ourselves. This is what industry is looking for. We are looking for genius, into brackets, that are able to change their way of thinking, not just, okay, this is what I was studying, this is what I apply. I'm interested in what's going in the world, I know why there is a war, how this war could impact my life and the industry and the project I'm working on.
Thank you, Milena. And I recall about genius, somebody said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% transpiration, meaning that you need to do something in order to become a genius. I will give the floor to Simonetta Di Pippo, currently director of Spatial Pollution Lab at Bocconi, as mentioned before. She was director at UNOSAR, many other roles in her curriculum. I took a few words from your CV, Simonetta. Firm believer of cooperation in space, among all. So can we start from here to take a picture of what we should do in education in the space sector from your perspective? Please, Simonetta.
Thank you. Well, the point is straightforward in the sense that whatever you do in space, for sure you can do it at national level, but the most important activities are done in international cooperation. For example, the European Space Agency, which is an intergovernmental organization, is an example of how far you can go if you put together all the efforts and also the skills present in the various countries in Europe. But another example may be the International Space Station, which is, by the way, also a platform for what we call space diplomacy. Reason being that you have countries cooperating since decades now in the development and operations of the International Space Station, countries which not necessarily on Earth are, let's say that they have some differences of opinions. In particular, if we talk about the Russian Federation and the United States, but the point is that also in the recent times, even when the conflict in Ukraine already started, we experienced in the relationship between the Russian Federation, in particular Roscosmos, which is the space agency of the Russian Federation, and NASA, so the space of the United States of America, strong collaboration, and we have a few clear examples of the fact that they continue to work together. Now, there are several reasons, and by the way, when I teach at NYU in Abu Dhabi, my main course is space diplomacy, and I obviously I use examples for students. So not only 3Ds and principles and how the UN works and things like that, but on real programs which have been conducted in international cooperation and show the incredible power of being all together. Okay, science is international by definition, and space is international by definition. And the point is that all the results that we see, all the successes that we see in space are strongly linked to cooperation. Now, in the future, one of the main, let's say, trend that we see is the moon exploration. Moon exploration that in the past was conducted at national level, in particular during the Cold War. We know well what happened between the Soviet Union at that time and the United States of America. By the way, the Russians have been, or the Soviets have been the first landing on the moon with Luna 9. But then the Americans won the race in a way, or the match, landing humans on the surface of the moon. Now, what is happening right now is that on one side, we have currently 32 countries around the Artemis program and the Artemis Accords. They signed the Artemis Accords, Italy included, and Italy, by the way, was one of the first countries to sign these agreements. And these are a set of principles for a responsible behavior from member states, or for countries which are really contributing to this program. And the idea is to have the two new human beings, two additional human beings, whatever, by 2025 landing again on the moon, but this time to stay, and this time already since the very beginning with an international mindset and international approach, which means that you need to have an open architecture in terms of moon exploration, but in general for the systematic exploration of the solar system, both human and robotic. But interesting enough, we see also that there is another, let's say, pillar in this exploration program, which is around China, because China in the last couple of decades has been really rushing in developing technologies. And currently they have a national space station in orbit, Tiangong, fully functional and operational. And they're really planning to have quite an aggressive, allow me to say so, quite an aggressive program to bring humans on the surface of the moon by 2030. And we don't have to forget that with Chang'e 5, which is, they have this series of missions to the moon called Chang'e. Chang'e 5 in 2020 was the latest, the last mission to bring, able to bring samples from the surface of the moon back on Earth. And this didn't happen until, the last time was 1972, when we had, in December 1972, the last Apollo mission, which was Apollo 17. Now, what they're trying to do is really to federate some other countries and also private companies around them. So you have the Russian Federation, other countries, and at least already few companies which signed this agreement with China for the building up of this International Lunar Research Station. The point is, and then we go back to diplomacy, the point is that all of them, they want to go to the south pole of the moon, reason being that you have water ice, that you have helium-3, not in big quantities, but still, and you have rare earths, which are extremely important for, you know, artificial intelligence, IoT, driverless cars, whatever. And they're always, that area is always under the light of the sun, and is a very small part is not visible from Earth. So I leave to you the consideration of that. The point is, NASA presented 13 potential landing locations for their missions, the Artemis missions, or let's say the collective Artemis program. And out of the 13, 6 of them are the same presented by the Chinese. Now, in absence of rules, so without the rules of the road, this could become the new Wild Wild West. And so what is absolutely needed in terms of diplomacy, again, is that we collectively, on a global level, we decide on how to deal with this. So we need the global governance, and we need space traffic management, and we need to finalize at least the basic rules in order to avoid any potential conflict on the moon. So diplomacy at its best.
Thank you, Simonetta, for your inspiring talk regarding also moon. I will come back to the moon later with Milena Lerario, but now I want to go to Renato Cropon, that is the head of the Swiss Space Office at the State Secretary for Education, Research and Innovation. He has a long experience also in research, so he knows, he has the point of view of an agency, but with the experience also of researchers who knows about how university works. And I would ask him, Renato, your point of view about where we are in education in space, and what we could do in order to improve the quality of what we are doing in this sector. Please, Renato, the floor is yours.
Yes, well, thank you very much. Also, thank you very much for the invitation. And first of all, that you situate where we are at the Swiss Space Office, the State Secretary for Education, Research and Innovation within the Swiss government. And as Switzerland has no autonomy of the universities in Switzerland. So we're somewhere in between, where we try to foster the ecosystem and to create opportunities. So when we look, let's say, from a 20,000 feet view, I see that Europe is very competitive in different domains. We have Earth observation. I think Italy is very strong in that domain. We have telecommunications, space science, where Europe can play a role. Today, there are more than 60,000 people working directly in the space industry. And this is actually growing, which is positive for the sector. And of course, this doesn't consider the downstream part. Now, I believe when we come to the opportunities, when it comes to university courses, there is sufficient opportunities to grow in the there's more education in the future. As we are also seeing that the average age in the industry is around 44, 45. And we will have a generational change in the upcoming years. Of course, we mentioned the gender balance. It's still rather low. We have 22% women, 78% men. So there is certainly something which can be improved in the future. Now, if we look at the challenges, what I see is for us is to create a seamless set of opportunities for students, where we go from university education to giving them an opportunity then to be employed either in university research or to have the opportunity to work in industry. And ideally is to have clusters. I mean, we certainly have around Milano, Torino, we have a very strong space cluster, but also we're seeing in Switzerland around Lausanne, a space cluster which has formed, as well as in Zurich. And the question we are asking is, how do we keep the brains in Europe? Of course, we can do that through the European Space Agency by providing exciting missions, and the ESA Council is working very strongly on accelerating these missions, rejuvenating the way we do missions, but also, and there we have to be very careful that we don't lose out in terms of space science, because the budget of space science has been eroding over the years, simply regarding the purchasing power. So here we have to be very careful. There is another element which is coming in, is security aspects, where we have to find the right level in Europe. This is certainly a question which is important. If we're too restrictive, we lose innovation power. If we're not, we might end up in difficult situations. So these are certainly the important points. Now, in Switzerland, what are we trying to do? We're trying to do a seamless chain of opportunities. What we see, and this is my recommendation also based on what I've seen in the past through my own curricula, it's hand-on project. If you want to increase the quality of on one hand teaching, but also on the training of the students, is to have as many hand-on projects as possible. Ideally, also to have hand-on projects which are on a European scale, because this brings together students. They get a better understanding of what the different cultural backgrounds are, and this also prepares them for the future work in industry, and helps to create the necessary networks you'll need later on when you're a professional in the domain. What we also see, what is quite interesting, is try to capture personalities. It's, as we have in Switzerland, the astronaut Claude Nicollier, which brought a big dynamic into the ecosystem in Lausanne. And now we have Thomas Zurbuchen, which was the head of science of NASA for a long time. He's well known for the James Webb Space Telescope. He brought, basically, he's at ETH in Zurich now and trying to build a Space Master, and this creates a very strong dynamic. So in short, create not only competitive projects, but projects which are on a collaborative way across Europe, hands-on projects, exchange of professorships, and don't fear competition. I think competition between the universities, that also will drive the quality of the teaching in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Renato. Something that is returning several times is the need to attract more people to this field. And in particular, we have a gender gap problem, and I will go to Milena Erario. On average, at Italian Polytechnical University, we have 30% of female people. In aerospace engineering, we are well below that number. How can we inspire young women in order to push them towards education in the STEM sector? I would ask to each of you to have just a closing remark, 1 minute for each of you. Please, Milena.
So I am the part, I like numbers, but I learned them in Italy more than ever, I'm part of the 3% of CEO managing director in aerospace industry. And well, 3% is not so high number. I started university, we were 2 women on 200 participants in PISA, and I don't think we were the most clever. I think we were just one with the passion. So I think that universities where you see all the mistakes or missing potential in the educational path. So what we have to start is from kindergarten. So we are really to start from scratch. That is, I think, what we are going through now. That is to make, let's say, the dream much more digestible So astronauts now, you have, let's say, a lot of examples. They are normal people. Okay, they still eat strange things, but I mean, they are example of people you can meet at conference. Is much more approachable than before. So I think this is what we have all to work on, to become approachable, to have conferences, to have, let's say, example in university, but not only, and to really help these kids to believe they can do whatever they want. So I think that most of this needs to be done by the families. So the institution can help, can support, but the family education, I think, is the basics.
Thank you, Milena. And I go back to Donatella Asciuto. Donatella, closing remarks from you. What we should do that we are not already doing in Italy, in our universities?
Well, what we need to do is to make sure that children, not more than children is than afterwards when they become teenagers, girls, do see technologies as giving an impact to society, because this is the main, one of the main drivers for the female students to go into engineering, and that's what we see also in our areas. For us, aerospace engineering is not anymore an issue. I mean, it is better than others, like mechanical engineering or even computer engineering is lower in terms of girls that apply. But there is an importance to show that whenever you study an engineering field, you can do everything you want in life. And you can have a mind that is able to, I give it from my perspective, obviously I'm not saying that others are not good enough, that you can really go into interdisciplinary type of fields. I think flexibility is something which is important. Impact and flexibility are something which are important. And this is a matter of communication to the families and to the teenagers.
Thank you, Donatella. And again, with Guido Saracco. Guido, I know that 1 minute is not enough to answer this question, but how do you imagine the Polytechnic of Torino in the next 10, 20 years? What will be different then?
My problem is to get all my professors aware of ChatGPT 3 and to consider it as a base ground now for building their own courses. This is already a revolution. So I can hardly understand what is going to be the society, but for sure, Politecnico di Torino have to run faster than society in order to serve it. And I guess that we all, rectors and responsible, especially of technical university, will have a tough time in upgrading our professors. Anyone should learn over his or her entire lifetime, but professors should be one step ahead to be those that are teaching the others. And things are changing so fast that this should be the first point on the agenda of anyone who is leading a university.
Thank you again, Guido. And I go to Simonetta Di Pippo for her closing remarks. Simonetta, what about your vision? Something that we should change in the university? A suggestion for the rectors, let's say, from your side.
No, I don't think that's, if I may, I would like to use another angle. The point is that we do need also to work with the general public, because as Donatella was mentioning, is for sure an issue, of the social environment, but it's also an issue related to, the leaders. It's crystal clear in all the studies which have been published on the topic, at least on the topic of the gender balance, that you need to have CEOs and rectors and ministers and everyone in charge in a country fully in charge and fully responsible for pushing forward, let's say, for making actions in order to putting actions on the table in order to be able to advance. The last gender gap report issued just recently by the World Economic Forum is mentioning 130 years right now under the current conditions to reach the balance. And this is an issue in the society.
Yes.
And it's getting worse after the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the point is that we need to be the first one in moving ahead, and I'm sure that both Guido, yourself, and Donatella, they are doing whatever they can in order to push for that. So I don't believe there is
Yes, but-
anything to be changed, or at least nothing big. The point is, let's work all together. And let's try to understand that we do have to work on the society and on the leaders, working only quote and unquote, sorry, to really change mind or try to support, let's say, a change of mindset in young girls is absolutely needed. Don't misunderstand me. But we need also the other elements. At least
Simonetta, sorry to interrupt you, Simonetta,
Sorry,
but we are
sorry.
running out of
Talking a lot, I
time.
know. Sorry.
Renato, a flash from you, your closing remarks.
I'll be very brief. I think first of all we have to raise the awareness that a 20/80 distribution is not normal. Huh? Often we get into a room, aerospace, they're almost only male, and we don't even realize. I think that should be the first reflex. So why is it 20/80? And then I follow many of the remarks. We have to inspire children from young age. We have to show role models. I think Samantha Cristoforetti, for example, is an excellent example which can really show that it is possible to become an astronaut and so on. So I think that is really the way to go, and to work on the social environment and to increase these numbers as we go forward. But I think important is really to have an awareness that this is not a normal situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Renato. And then I ask Ezio Bussoletti to close this session. We have seen many young people walking around here in this event. A few words for them, please, Ezio.
Ciao Renato. Well, we have part of my students of the master who are here. The close is very simple. Women are much better than men, so we have to increase the number of women in all our courses. But we particularly have qualified persons, not people who selling carpets, but just qualified persons. Only in this way we can really, as Italians, to have Italy still alive and be a leader. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers, and thank you all of you for attending this event.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye,
Arrivederci.
thank you.
Bye bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.